Hello. My fiancé walked away from our engagement because she said her business came first. 3 years later, she showed up at my construction site while I was walking my pregnant wife to the car. My name is Daniel. I'm 33, and I work as a structural engineer specializing in commercial renovations around Toronto. My days start early, usually on site by 7, and I don't get home until the light's already fading unless a project runs into trouble. I've lived in this city my whole adult life, and my routine doesn't change much. Work, the occasional beer with the crew, quiet weekends fixing up my own place or seeing my brother's kids. My fiancée back then was Elena. She was 30 when everything started falling apart, and we'd been together almost 5 years. For the last 2 of those years, we shared a townhouse close to downtown. Elena ran her own marketing consultancy, and she'd built it from nothing into something real. I respected that. I still do. But somewhere along the way, the business stopped being something she did and became the only thing she was. Client dinners replaced our dinners. Weekends turned into strategy sessions with people I never met. Every conversation eventually looped back to revenue targets and which competitor was gaining ground. I'm telling this story because of something that happened 2 weeks ago that dragged all of this back into the present in a way I didn't see coming. But to make sense of it, I have to go back to the night I proposed. I didn't do it on a whim. I'd been planning it for months, saved for the ring, picked a night when I knew her schedule was actually clear. Our lives were already tangled together in every practical way. Same lease, same furniture, same friends who assumed we'd be married within the year anyway. So when I got down on one knee in our kitchen, I genuinely thought I was catching up to something we'd both already decided. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either, not right away. She just looked at the ring like it was an invoice she hadn't budgeted for. Then she asked me, almost clinically, whether I understood what year this was for her company. She told me she was about to close a deal that could double her client base, and that getting engaged right now would send the wrong signal to investors who were watching how serious she was about scaling. Her exact words were that her business had to come first. Not eventually. Not for now. First, permanently, until further notice. I asked her straight out if she was saying no, or just saying wait. She said wait, but when I pushed for a timeline, she shrugged and said maybe 3 or 4 years, depending on how the company grew. She wanted me to stay exactly where I was, ring back in the box, while she poured everything she had into something that didn't include me in any of its plans. I told her that didn't sound like a partnership. It sounded like a waiting room. She got defensive fast, said I was being insecure, that real partners supported ambition instead of demanding reassurance. Then she said if I actually cared about her success, I'd stop making this about me. That sentence is the one that stuck. Because I hadn't asked her to give anything up. I'd asked her to marry me. Somehow I'd become the unreasonable one for wanting a future instead of an indefinite delay. I closed the ring box that night, and something in me closed with it. Elena noticed the shift immediately and got irritated that I wasn't apologizing for bad timing. I asked her directly whether she saw a future with me at all, or whether I was just convenient while she built her empire. She rolled her eyes and told me I needed to grow up and understand how ambitious people operated. That was the moment I stopped negotiating. I told her if marriage was a maybe in 3 or 4 years, we wanted different things right now. She laughed like she thought I was bluffing, said couples didn't split over something this small. I told her we did. The townhouse was in my name, so I told her she had until the weekend to find another place. Her whole demeanor changed once she realized I wasn't posturing. She tried guilt, listed everything she'd given the relationship, tried to paint me as impulsive. I just listened and let it happen. My mind was already made up. By Sunday, her boxes were gone. Before she left, she told me I'd regret this the moment I realized how hard it is to find someone who understood ambition like she did. I didn't answer her. There wasn't anything left to say. The months after were quieter than I expected, and quiet turned out to be exactly what I needed. Work stayed busy, sites to manage, deadlines to hit, and slowly I noticed how much lighter my evenings felt without the constant hum of her business talk. About 8 months later, I started dating again, nothing serious, just figuring out what I actually wanted this time. A year after that, I met Sophia. She managed operations for a nonprofit, and her schedule was demanding too, but she never treated our relationship like a line item competing for her attention. We talked like equals. No lectures about who is more driven. Just two people building something together on purpose. Eventually we got married, and last spring we found out she was pregnant. None of that is why I'm writing this, though. It's about who walked onto my job site last week. It was a Tuesday mid-morning, and I was doing a walkthrough on a renovation downtown with two of my crew. Sophia was 7 months along by then, and she'd taken to swinging by on her lunch break so we could grab something to eat together before her afternoon meetings. I saw her car pull up along the curb near the site fence right as I was heading toward the gate to meet her. That's when I noticed someone arguing with the site supervisor near the entrance, trying to walk past the barrier without a hard hat or a visitor badge. I didn't recognize her at first. It had been 3 years. But the voice landed before the face did. It was Elena. She looked mostly the same clipped tone with anyone she considered an obstacle. The supervisor was explaining she couldn't just walk onto an active site, and Elena sounded genuinely offended that the rule applied to her. Then she spotted me, and her whole posture changed. The irritation dropped away, replaced by something almost hopeful. She walked straight toward me like no time had passed at all. She said she'd found out through a mutual contact that I was working this project and figured she'd stop by since she was in the area for a client meeting. Before I could really respond, Sophia reached the gate behind me, one hand resting on her stomach, and Elena's eyes went straight to her. I said it simply. "This is my wife, Sophia. We were just heading to lunch." Elena's expression did something complicated, surprise sliding into something closer to recalculation, like she was trying to fit new information into a story she'd already written in her head. She asked when I'd gotten married. I told her a little over 2 years ago. She asked about the pregnancy next, and I confirmed we were expecting in a couple months. She nodded slowly, and then she said the part one thinks she'd actually come to say. She told me the consultancy had gone through a rough stretch, that a major client had pulled out and taken half her revenue with them, and that she'd spent the last year rebuilding from a much smaller base than before. Then she said that somewhere in the middle of all that, she'd started thinking back to the night I proposed and wondering if she'd made the right call. She used the word probably, said she'd probably handled it badly, that she'd been so afraid of losing momentum that she never stopped to ask what she might lose by waiting. She asked if we could get coffee sometime just to talk. Sophia stayed quiet beside me, calm the way she always is, letting the moment play out without inserting herself into it. I answered right away. I told Elena I appreciated her being honest, but my life had already moved on, and it had moved on well. I glanced at Sophia when I said it. Elena's face fell in a way she didn't bother hiding. She said if I'd just given her more time back then, things could have turned out differently for both of us. Even now, 3 years later, she still framed it as a problem of my patience, not the fact that she'd asked me to shelve an entire relationship indefinitely while she chased a title. I didn't argue with her. There was nothing left to argue about. I told her we'd both made the choices that felt right at the time, and that I hoped things turned around for her. She nodded, said she wouldn't keep us, and walked back to her car. Sophia and I went to lunch like we'd planned. Halfway through, she asked if seeing Elena again had gotten to me. I told her honestly that it hadn't. If anything, it felt like proof. I used to think that rejected proposal was the worst night of my life. Now I know it was the night that pointed me toward the right one.